What is up, rant enthusiasts? Today is Monday, the 25th of March, 2019. It is about half afternoon, so it is 12:32 in the afternoon. My back still hurts from yesterday. Yesterday we had the Airsoft Ministry's 9th birthday. I'm still... Can you be hungover from energy? Is that, possible? Before we get into it, U.S. Airsoft, Instagram and all that other stuff up in Anderson, California. West Coast Adventure Park in the Slough House area of California. We have Yuka's UKAUS in Galt, California. We also have CQB City in Stockton, California. And the Airsoft Ministry right over here in Roseville, California. Don't forget to check out AEX Sacramento and TNT Airsoft in Lodi. Those are your local Northern California Airsoft distributors. Okay. Dude, I'm still messed up. Yesterday was the 9th birthday for the Airsoft Ministry, or the field I ref at. I don't want to say it's my field, it's God's field. So when I say my field, I mean I don't own it. I don't necessarily manage it. I just, make it cool. God makes it cool. I help with it. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just going to call it my field. So when I say my field, the field that I staff and ref at and Instagram for, blah, 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 the Airsoft Ministry, moving on. Coming down. I'm on the downswing of a rock star. So there's that. So, 356 players. I'm going to say that number again, in case you go back on the little rewind thing, and you're like, no way did that happen. The Airsoft Ministry had 356 players. 3 years ago, just 3 years ago, we thought 100 was there's 100, there's 100 players, what are we going to do? Now we average about 150 to 180 on, a Sunday. Just some regular, nothing going on, no particular significant Sunday. 350 to 380. Historically speaking, last month we hit 2,000 Instagram followers. We had a free day. And that last February, we had 211. Before that, we had our... either the 8th birthday or when we broke 1,000 Instagram followers. I can't remember what the previous record was. 200, about 200 even. Pardon me. So we smashed it. I was anticipating 3 to 350. I'm going to go ahead and say that's probably going to be the record for some time. So from start to finish, the backstory on the whole behind-the-scenes look at everything going on for that birthday party. Let's go all the way back to... So for me, I will bring this up in several rants, 2 significant events that I have gone to that influenced the way I manage, or I help manage the feed, the Airsoft Ministry, is Airsoft Con from 2018, which would have been last year. That was the first, Airsoft... shifting around. That was the first Airsoft event I'd ever gone to outside of my local area. And then what was the second one? Oh, the Oregon Winter Expo, which was February of this year. And there was, that one as well. Obviously, Airsoft Con, it's really just Evike's trade show, convention show kind of thing. Not necessarily promoting a field or whatever. It was just a big trade convention, kind of like Anime Con or Comic Con for Airsoft, I guess. Oregon Arena, the Oregon Winter Expo, was the first time where I was really I could do this in Roseville. There's no real reason why I can't get something of this magnitude happening at the Airsoft Ministry. I had already met a lot of those vendors. I'd already DM'd, emailed, text message, whatever. So, shoot, people, know kind of who I am. People kind of know the Airsoft ministry. Why not? So I hit up the vendors and all this stuff, brought the idea up to Ethan, who's the field manager, who actually manages the Airsoft ministry, so he's the boss, and said, dude, let's do it. 9th birthday. Like, we've never done, not only have we as a field never done something of that magnitude, but I cannot think of, in recent memory, in any amount of memorable time, where a Northern California field had done something like that. If they've happened, it's before I either knew about it or really got into Airsoft. Keep in mind, I've only been doing this for 3 years. So, yeah, why not? Let's lead the way in this. So Ethan gave me the okay. We talked about it as a staff. We're like, yeah, let's do it. It's a challenge. Reached out to any vendors or any connections or any people I could, just sort of threw a net out there, and whoever would show up would show up. And there you have it. One of the things I wanted to make sure that, so I remember at Airsoft Con obviously had a huge turnout, but they had a big enough space to manage that. They also weren't playing. Airsoft Con, you don't play Airsoft. It's just vendors. It's like shops and people and stuff. Oregon Airsoft, the Winter Expo, I liked the small amount of vendors that they had. So there was only maybe 10. Does that sound right? Somewhere in there, like 10 or so. And even then, I think maybe half of those were sort of more local to the area. So they weren't like the big name. So like that I can think of, there was like G&G and CQB Russian and Airsoft Master, stuff like that. Those guys are there too. So what Oregon did that I had noticed was they decided to have a tournament as part of their thing. They did a 2-day event. If I recall correctly, it was even a 3-day event. Saturday was like they were playing and stuff like that, and then Sunday was a tournament and then play later. We are only open really Sundays. To do an event on a Saturday would be sort of really outside like the norm of what our normal customer base is used to, because we still have a huge amount of newer players and rental players. It would have been a 2-day event would have been, I think, way too much of a drain on our current staff, which we only have 5 or 6 full-time staff members, volunteers, that are there every Sunday. So to get someone who works 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, or who goes through school, to have them to donate their full weekend to Airsoft, that's a lot to ask. You're really stretching it thin. So my challenge was, what can we do in a day? What is the greatest single day event we can have? And that's what I came up with. I was thinking about doing a tournament. Decided not to, because I wanted, this was also the side field came later. That came like way after we had already planned a bunch of stuff. I didn't want a tournament because I wanted the maximum amount of players to be on the field for the maximum amount of time. That was it, because I knew there was going to be people from Southern California coming up, from the Bay Area, from all over the place. So I wanted to get them and keep them on the field for as long as possible, game-wise. With a tournament, you really limit that. That's why I like that Oregon did like a 2 or 3 day format, because they devoted like a full day to just like playing and having fun and stuff like that. And then they did a whole separate day for a tournament. So for a multi-day format, yeah, that might be the way to do it. For one day, that's why we did not do a tournament. The next piece, the parking piece, or the way we had everything laid out. Usually on a regular Sunday, that big walk, the staging area, is the parking lot. That's the main parking lot for the field, is that dirt area in front of the desk area and all that stuff. Because we try to keep everyone, we don't want to interfere or hinder the church parking lot for all the churchgoers coming and going with the first and second services. We don't want to add to that traffic or that clutter. So normally, on a normal Sunday, that big dirt lot is our main parking lot. We wanted to cut that off. What we had learned, and the feedback, a large percent of the feedback we'd been given for last month, for the February free day, was, dude, so many people. It was chaos. It was just chaos, especially with people setting up tables everywhere, cars coming and going, creating their own little traffic thing. So we had decided to cut the parking lot out of the equation and make what is normally a parking lot one big staging area with the vendors in the middle, kind of like so essentially we'd be making like a walk or like a roundabout. That was the main design behind that. We also wanted to try and keep everyone kind of spaced out, so we didn't just have this small cluster of players all over the place, which is why we came up with the VIP section. So the VIP seating was designed for like local team, anyone that has had a significant impact on the field. So like a lot of the local teams who've been playing there for years and helping us represent our brand. Anyone who's helped with our field builds, anyone who's gone kind of above and beyond playing to help us grow as a field. The main thing I wanted to do with that was allow them to set up, because theoretically the thought process is they already know kind of what we're trying to do, and basically so they set up their piece and everyone sort of goes around them because they've already established a foothold, kind of just dress off. If you understand the terminology, they basically dress off VIP. And to keep the foot traffic around the desk area lower. So the whole reason we had that layout was based in minimizing foot traffic, minimizing people like just being tight like a subway. We didn't want that, because usually on a normal Sunday, that's what a lot of it turns out to be, is they all try to cram into the two little table areas or whatever. So we wanted to just space that out. And then after that would also give vendors a time to set up before the rest of the player base would come. So if we were just to start everything at 11 o'clock, it would just be an unorganized madhouse. You'd have vendors trying to set up their booths and driving their cars, and it would have been chaos. So at 9 a.m., vendors and VIP were allowed to set up and stage and get their whole piece ready, drive in, drop off their gear, drive out, and have their tent set up and all that. By the time the vendors would be set up at 10 o'clock, we would allow players to come in from 10 to 11, drive in, drop their gear off, and get out. But after the vendors set up that little island, now we have a roundabout, and so for you just to sort of drive around, and it's a little bit more organized because you can't just start going all over the place in your car. So that whole plan was created to reduce madness, and I believe it worked out very well. One of the things that I've seen that I wish other events would do, either that I've personally been to or that I've seen, is timelines, is be specific in everything and answer and try to anticipate and answer all questions before they come to you. That's why I had created a Facebook event, and that's why I also created an Instagram highlight. So anyone who had theoretically never showed up before could go to that single source of information, that one Instagram highlight, and have 70-80% of their questions answered before they have to ask any specific questions. We didn't really get any questions that weren't answered already. It's just maybe a couple of people just didn't see it, or they just didn't care to research it, or blah, 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 blah. But using our social media presence and creating a timeline and creating that layout, so much better than anything we had done in the past. And I'm glad we did it, because we had about almost 150 more than our previous record. So definitely that helped out. The other great thing about having those vendors there is now players aren't just sitting at their tables, like just being bored, or they have something to do. They can engage with the vendors. They can go, on sleep mode. Okay. They can go talk to the Marines. They can go talk to AEX. They can go talk to CQB City. They can do all these things. Also with the vendors, if you look at that survey that I have out now, obviously you can't see the results, but I'm telling you now. According to the analytics of our current survey on SurveyMonkey, which you should definitely go fill out, please, about 70 to 80% of our player base for Airsoft Ministry only play Airsoft on Sundays at our field. That's it. So the only concept of Airsoft is what they see at our field on a Sunday. That's it. Some of them don't even know other fields exist. CQB City, Ukas Yukas, West Coast Adventure Park. Our players don't know you exist as a field. What do you want to do with that information? So I wanted to bring the Airsoft community to those player bases so that they understand that by being a part of that community, they're a part of a bigger community of not only Northern California Airsoft, but Airsoft as a whole, as a sport or community or whatever fancy wording you want to bring in. So I reached out to all the vendors and said, hey, these people don't know you exist. Come hang out. I reached out to CQB City Stockton and said, hey, guys, they don't know you exist. Come out. I reached out to all the other fields, but they didn't get back to me. So, whatever. That's a missed opportunity for marketing on their part. CQB City gave out 10 free passes, so that is 10 new customers that they will be getting whenever they show up. So yeah, that was a great piece to that. So there's a lot of things that went into that. The side field came. Ethan thought of that maybe a month or so ago, kind of in the middle of planning. He said, hey, let's do this. Okay. And that worked out well too, because if you go back to our February event with the 211 players, we just threw them all on the field at the same time, divided them up into 2 teams, and good luck. Well, we had mixed reviews on that. There was I would say a third of the players that did enjoy that because it was a target-rich environment for them. But I would say a vast majority of our players from that event didn't like that many players on the field because it was hard to maneuver, it was hard to move, it's just chaos. It's just hard to play with that many players on a field. Okay, that's fair. That's a fair piece of feedback that I can use and grow on. So the first thing we did, this was happening anyway, but this just sort of helped it, was we expanded the field by about 14 yards to the side. So we did have a field expansion, and then we obviously filled in that expansion with buildings. The second piece we did was we created that side field. It used to be on that side of the field where those trees are, was where was basically a homeless camp or a homeless encampment, which was fine. We never really had any problems. We were just kind of like, I just kind of leave them alone. But so one of the points that we wanted to bring up was, hey, at some point, we don't want this piece of land to be known as a homeless camp. So we have all these people that we don't know around all these people we do know, and we want to avoid conflict. So we took the tree line and we cut all the limbs from about 20 feet up and down, because one of the reasons that those become a camp was because the shade was providing a natural coverage, because it was kind of like weeping willow style with all these low-hanging branches and leaves. So we took that coverage out. Gone. It's not there anymore. So we cut that out, and we created a second field because we had anticipated so many people. We wanted to create a second field to keep players going. Granted, there's pieces to that field that we can improve on. Like we put way too many people on that side field. But the intent behind that field, the only purpose, the only reason we did that was to keep players active and moving. Going forward is the things we're going to do to that field. Yes, duh. you shouldn't probably put more than 30 people on that field. We crammed like 60 or so. About 60, 70 players on that side field. And they still loved it. They would just prefer it to be a smaller crowd, but people loved that field. So the reason that the field was constructed the way it was if you look at it, that fence to the side, well, we can't have players shooting off into the park. So that field is basically one directional. It's a tug-of-war field. It's not like most fields where you can do you could have an easy sweep on one side. So the bullets or the rounds are just basically going back and forth. You really don't have to worry about shooting a jogger or whatever. And even on Sundays, if you've been going to our field for a while, you know there's no one there on a Sunday. If there is, we just go, okay, we're not using this field now. Case-by-case basis. The other piece we wanted to make sure we did was to further break down the teams or the player population as a whole as like a guiding template. Was we had 4 teams. We had 4. So usually when you show up to register, you get put on one roster and you get basically one color of wristband. And then we do teams once you get onto the field. But it's 100% of the field goes on and plays at the same time. We had broken the field down into quarters, into 4 different colored wristbands. That way we'd call on, hey, on the main field we'll have red and blue, and on the red, blue, and green. And on the side field will be orange or yellow, whatever we were doing. So we'd have anywhere between 2 to 3 teams on there at one time. I think a couple times we did all 4. So I think a couple times we'd have 100% of the players on the field at one time. But we were trying to keep capacity to about 75%. 75% of the player base, no more at least than 75% of the player base on the main field. Worked out well. Dude, it worked out so well. My back was not happy with me at the end of the... Dude, I didn't sit. Like, if you watch me at the field, you don't see me sit down a whole lot. And I need to, because my lower back really doesn't appreciate my mind just going. So I would be running the field, or then I'd be helping out with something in the desk area. Then I'd be checking on the vendors and making sure the vendors are happy. Then I'm trying to check on the players and the teams that come out, and just trying to make sure, I'm trying to dad the whole thing and just make sure everyone's having a good time. So I was trying to basically be, look, I'm the field dad for the Airsoft ministry. Everyone knows it. It's okay to say that. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was having a good time. So I had to physically walk from point to point to point. And my back was done by about 4 to 4:30. My back was like, hey, you need to sit down, like now. Oh, you need more motivation? Grrr, like, oh no, my muscles, no. It was horrible. It was not fun for anyone involved. And by that I mean me or my back. So I hope you appreciate what my lower back went through for standing from... I got there at a little before 9 a.m. and we left. The staff left at about 6:30, give or take. 'Cause we still had to pack up everything and make sure everything was cleaned and do our thing. So, yeah, that was easily close to a full 8 or 9 hours of pure standing and walking around. You in your 30s, you know that ain't a good idea. Once you get into your 30s, you're like, hey, stupid, sit down. It was so painful. I'd do it again. I would do that in a heartbeat. Going forward, what is the plan for the next free day we have, which will probably be, off the top of my head, we will discuss this as a staff, but the main thought is either 2,000 followers on Facebook or 5,000 on Instagram, or next year's birthday will most likely be the next free day we have. I don't know. I don't want to break. Listen to me. I have no desire to break that record. I don't. Because it's just so much work. Oh, Also, going back, you noticed a lot of new faces were behind the desk for check-in. We had main body church support. So our council of elders came out there. So our when I say council of elders, I'm not talking about like a group of dudes that give you a ring and tell you to go throw it on a volcano in Mordor somewhere. I'm talking about the people who let our field exist. Keep in mind, we exist as long as the church says we can. And by the church, I really mean our governing body called the church's council of elders. As long as they say we can exist, we can exist. So they actually came out and helped. They did a lot of parking enforcement. They helped us with check-in, which was the biggest. We knew that the biggest piece going into this would be registration. It's the biggest piece for any event. You stand in a line. So we broke it up going from right to left. So on the far, as you look at the check-in area, the far right was dedicated just for people that needed waivers. The middle, which is usually the main check-in line, was for anyone that needed waiver. It was for rentals only. So if you didn't need a waiver, but if you needed a rental gear, you went in the middle line. The far left line was kind of our regulars, anyone that doesn't need a waiver and has their own gear. And after that, you just keep walking. You go chrono in, you get your gun tagged, and you walk out, and you just go wait. So that helped in big time. Registration is the hardest part for any day. Ask your staff, what's the busiest part of the day? It's the first hour. The first hour of business, because everyone has to sign in, get checked and all that. And you just get this horde of zombies that have no idea what they're doing, that don't understand signage, that don't follow your social media where you say to do everything. Please, I'm begging you. If you play Airsoft, please follow your field's social media, because if they're smart and they're having a special event of some kind, they're constantly telling you about it. Or they're at least telling you, like, hey, you know how we usually do this thing? Well, we're going to do this thing instead for this one day, for this particular set of circumstances. Hopefully they are putting that out. Because if you have 356 people show up and go, hey, what do I do? You want to run. You want to just run into a dark closet, close the door, and just cry. It's just madness. It's bad. So, yeah. Crowd control from about 10 to noon was the biggest piece. That's like 80% of the work. Everything else is just running the field, coming up with games, and make sure everyone's groovy. That's it. Welcome to running an airsoft field. It's the hardest part of the day. What else? I think that's around about it. Yeah, that's it. I was real happy with that turnout that we had. And now, because of that, people are going to start generating our vendors, our players, all that. They generate posts, but now they are generating content that advertises us as a field. So now we're only going to get bigger. In the last 3 days, we had over 100 new Instagram followers. In 3 days. And we only have about a little over 2,000. That's big. That's significant. To get 100 Instagram followers in 3 days when I haven't been posting that much because I've been planning, that's huge. And we're just going to keep getting bigger, which means I gotta do more work. Which means we're going to have to get more rental rifles, which means more rental rifles are going to break, which means Ethan's going to have to do more work. And oh no. Why did I do that? Why? That was dumb. You know what? That was a dumb thing to do. Whatever. I still had a blast. Going forward. Yeah, we're probably not going to do anything that... I don't want to say we're not going to do anything that big again, but I don't think it's going to have that same growth impact. Meaning, unless we really decide to do something crazy, I think going forward, about 250 to 350 is the most people we're going to have for special events going forward. And that's with or without vendors, with or without people coming in. It's just what we're going to do. Well, we're asleep. We're awake. And we're frozen. Are we frozen? Anyway. Going forward, we are going to be using a modified version of that parking plan. So that one event did create ways in which we are going to go forward and operate our regular Sundays. So that is it for me. My camera is frozen. This might just be audio only. I don't know. I don't know if anything's moving. I don't really care because it's the end of the video. Make sure you follow all those. Make sure you follow your field's social media. Make sure you follow everyone's social media. Make sure you give many, many hugs. I'm going to do another video. It's, dude, I need a nap. Like, I'm still tired from yesterday. I'm so tired. But I wanted to crank this out. I wanted to let you guys know everything that went into that and let you know that I appreciate all of you. Hey, my webcam's working again. Yay. We still fluctuating our sound? We still working? We doing stuff? Okay, I'm going to take a nap for about a week. Upcoming events, please make sure you check out CQB City's their 3-on-3 speed tournament in May. This Saturday, and by this Saturday, I mean the 30th of March, the Airsoft Ministry will be open for TDM tournament practice and regular play as well. So I'm going to divide the field in half. Near side is going to be tournament practice. Far side will just be regular, whatever you want to do kind of play style. And then we will probably switch back and forth between what we have for the side field. That is it. I'm going to go take a nap. Goodbye.